Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mayor of Kingstown, Season 3, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of the cars exploding last episode. It seems like the whole point was just to be a spectacle. It was meant to be a message. It wasn't meant to kill anyone. To be fair, the bombs went off I don't know whether the people who did the job were just so sloppy that they were supposed to be casualties, but it doesn't. They never made a point of it. It does seem like it was just meant to be like we're making a statement. But it kind of got too heavy because now KPD was. I guess the guys involved weren't expecting KBD to be so on their asses about it, because they end up tracking down the first guy, but Robert ends up putting him down. It's like you kind of go I don't know if that was necessary. To be fair, the guy had the gun in his hand. His hands were in the air, but his hand was still on the gun. So it's hard to say whether it's that warranted him being taken down. But it's cool. Because of that, they need to find the second guy, because the only way this is going to get shut down is right. They know the people behind this are because what led them to the first guy was because two of the bombs didn't go off or something, because they were using prepaid phones, or they're using burner phones, and so they were able to kind of trace it back to these people. They got the one guy but not the other guy. So Mike ends up figuring out right, this is the Aryans, they're making a move, so he wants to have a sit down with Callahan. Really quickly with the Kareem scene, I thought it was interesting because Mike's you okay, bro? Blasting that music, your neighbors don't say anything. What about the wife and kids? And Kareem skillfully dodges that. He ends up referencing it later on to Callahan, yeah, I get to sleep in my own bed with my wife and family, but I'm are you is your family life problem? I mean, that definitely can't be good, because obviously we went over it a little bit last season, his family circumstances with everything that happened with him during a riot, and how his wife was kind of dealing with that. So I don't know if it's a thing of his family's it seems that's probably why he's doubling down, because it's kind of all he has right now is probably work. All he has is work and his trauma, because he probably purposely pushed his family away, because getting his get back last season didn't really rectify anything, didn't fix anything. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that, but it just seemed purposely kind of why heard your wife come out and complain, but Mike, not even complain, because it'd be her calling you out justifiably for just blasting music like that. But it could just be either she's just kind of you're going through it, I'm just going to give you your space. Either she's staying in a home and giving him space, or she moved in with a sibling or parents or something. I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but it just feels like that's a loaded situation of, yeah, he's living alone, which is, with everything going on, probably not the best thing. But anyway, he sets up to sit down, well, not even sit down, but, talk between Mike and Callahan. We still don't know enough of their past. Like I said, I don't know if Callahan was ever referenced in the previous seasons or not, because we don't talk, it gets brought up from time to time, but we don't know a lot. We know bits and pieces, but we don't know a lot about Mike's time in prison. But it seems at least, I don't know if all of it, but probably a decent chunk of it is related to Callahan. It seems I doubt he was with the Aryans, but Mike probably did what he does now. He's the middleman. He's Switzerland and a lot of stuff. He shakes hands. He does the deals. He keeps the peace between all the people. So he probably did that the same when he was in prison. Maybe, that's obviously a position he mainly has as the mayor, but he probably played that diplomatic role in prison. I think they talked about that previously, about his where he stood in prison. But it's obviously he's not with the Aryans, but he was probably I don't know. It seems like he was close-knit enough with Callahan, because they talk about later on what Callahan did for him. But I guess maybe Callahan kept him safe in prison. Maybe that's why Mike's I do owe you. But we'll get to that later. But there was also that interesting conversation with him and Callahan when they're first talking. I thought was fascinating, where he was this used to be the death row exercise place. I guess inmates who were on death row, they'd have to exercise in this place, and he's and now it's been turned into a dog kennel. He's yeah, there's some parallel that you can draw there. I was that was just kind of an interesting conversation. But it's yeah, who's responsible for the bombs going off? Because they did kind of draw the parallel where it's like, right, these bombs, and Kyle's like, it's different from the ones from Mom's funeral, so we don't know if it's even correlated. Can't necessarily put that together, but I mean, we at least know the Aryans are behind this, so. But yeah, Callahan tried to make it seem like this was old business. It's like, no, this is stuff left over from Gunner's regime. But like, Mike's not buying that because he's like, yo, we need to find the second guy alive because we need confirmation. We need him to be able to say it was Callahan who gave these orders because we need to lock him up. It's like, we know who's trouble. Like the moment Callahan's name was mentioned, you saw Ian almost go like, oh boy, like everyone knows who Callahan is. It's like, we need to lock him up 23 hours a day. No, like we get him no sunlight because we need to bury this dude because he's that much trouble. So, and he was specifically talking, even Robert's like, well, are you talking to me? He's like, yeah, who else would I be talking to? I'm looking directly at you. Do not kill this dude. So it's actually because the guy met up with a buddy and they were like, they jacked a car, but the cops got on him immediately. They crashed, split up. The other guy, I was like, oh, this could go nasty. Where it's like Ian and Stevie got guns on the guy, and Kyle was like, yo, let me just talk the guy down. It's like, right, you jacked a car, you're on parole already, but the fact of the matter is we can kind of get that knocked down if you talk to us. So we know this doesn't, I mean, regardless if it wasn't really your idea, you still helped and abetted this situation, so. All the while they're in Bunny's territory, which I love. Bunny's getting a like hoot and holler out of this. It feels so fucking weird to say that, but yeah, he's excited about it. Like they're listening on the scanner, being like, oh, like play by play, and they're excited because it's like, yeah, about time you're hunting down someone else but us. It's like it's kind of like, oh, we get to be on the other side of this thing. We get to listen in, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's not any of our people being busted. It's like, oh, it's a white dude. Oh, hell yeah. On top of that, it's an Aryan. Fuck yeah, that's even more. Ooh, that's even more juicy. And they're like looking at it like a sport. So, but yeah, home dudes in their territory. Luckily, Bunny like snatched him up for him. So luckily, Kyle was able to de-escalate his situation with the friend, and Robert took notice of that. Which later on he's like, oh yeah, I'm here observing, and Ian's kind of like, cool, get your drink, observe somewhere else. And he talks to Kyle like, why would you do that? And it's like, well, Kyle's like, well, we wouldn't have to be in that situation if you hadn't killed the first guy. But he's like, yeah, that's just like police department BS. Like, why did you approach the guy without the, you don't know if the guy's armed with a gun or not. But basically his perspective is you never know. So it's kind of like, what the protocol is, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. And he's like, yeah, good thing you know that. So does seem like Robert is giving it more thought about bringing Kyle into the fold of SWAT, but I don't know if that's kind of like, it felt like that was where that direction was going, and I don't know. I don't know if Kyle's kind of seeing like the hot-headedness that is Robert, like just like Evelyn's got beef with Robert approaching things the way he does. Like, I mean, it's kind of like because even Mike's kind of recognizes like how much he is kind of like a bull, that it's kind of like, but you need him a lot. So I guess necessary evil would be the word you kind of use. So like he always toes that line, interestingly enough, when it comes to Robert. So he recognizes both sides of it, kind of the necessity of Robert, but he also understands Evelyn's side of things. But he's still kind of like, yo, don't pursue this shit. It's not worth it. You took your shot, you missed, let it go. So either way, kind of continuing that plot thread, we had the whole situation where Mike goes and gets the dude from Bunny, and it's like, oh, you roughed him up a little bit. It's like, yeah, he wouldn't comply. So it's like, also make sure the cops know that we handled this. It's like, we did what they couldn't do. So in the future, they look the other way when it comes to some of our stuff, and cut some slack or something like that. But anyway, Mike questions the guy, but the guy's like, nah, I'm a loyal soldier. I'm all about fighting for our power, W power. But once again, he talks about, he's like, yeah, I've talked about, I know who you are, Mike. Like, your last year in prison was my first year. And Mike's like, I'm sorry, I don't remember you. But he was like, yeah, but like, people talk about you with such reverence about, oh yeah, Mike McCluskey. And it's like, yeah, so, but it's like, I don't see you that way. I see you as a traitor to this cause. Like, you getting down with black people is like, oh, like, getting down with blacks for green, yada, 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 so on and so forth. just calling him out for being a traitor and talking about all that Callahan's done for him, but he won't confirm that Callahan was responsible, because he's like, he bullshitted about being like, yeah, like I got it second to third hand, so I can't help you. And Mike just like threw him off the roof because he was saying stuff like, yeah, like what happened to you, what happened to your brother, what happened to your mom, because even Callahan had, because that's also the thing too, like Callahan had just referenced like earlier in the episode about his mom's death too. So at first he was like, oh yeah, I'm covering for Mitch, and it's like, yeah, that kind of sucks and everything. But also your mom too. I'm sorry about that. And now this guy references his mom, and that pissed Mike off. He's like, what about my mom? He's like, yeah, I'm just saying. And Mike just threw him off the roof, easy peasy, and just kind of went on about his day. Guy was never going to flip on Callahan no matter what. So later on, Mike visits Callahan and is like, cool. Callahan's like, I'll be out and gin pop a little bit more because I was useful. And he's like, yeah, let's keep up this good relationship. And Mike's like, because of our shared history. He's like, yeah, whatever sugar you need to take it, to be able to swallow it, whatever you got to cope with just to be able to swallow this whole situation, fine. He's like, okay, because of our history, you need something, I'll do it, I'll work with you. So Mike doesn't know that he's like in business with Callahan. I mean, that Callahan's in business with Constantine, which he had his, talk with Constantine last episode. So I don't know what Callahan's big move is working with the Russians. I guess it's like a means to an end type of thing. I mean, to be fair, it was actually Constantine who reached out to Callahan last episode, so I don't know what to make of that, especially when Mike kind of like put down the flag last episode. So I don't know if this is both of them working to try and like run things here, because it was the whole point Callahan was making. It's like, we make up like 1% of like the population, and I think specifically in prison. He's like, yeah, we also make up 20% of the violence. We don't start it, we don't actively go out our way looking for it, but we do it to kind of defend ourselves. I think that's on some like bullshit of like, we're defending like the extinction of our pure species. It feels like that might be the underlining thing there, but he's trying to make it seem like we're not the aggressors. We are just on our self-defense bag type of shit. So that's where things currently stand. So I don't know what to make of the Callahan and Constantine of it all, like what the end result will be. But Mike's completely unaware of that connection. So staying on Mike, he does visit, he goes to like Anna's arraignment, and she pleads guilty. She's like, yeah, I killed the guy who killed my son, and there's nothing that can be done, because she pleads guilty. It's kind of like, oh, it has to be like, did anyone tell you to plead guilty? She's like, no. Like, she's making this choice on her own. Like, whatever punishment comes, she's like, I know I did something wrong, but I needed the man who killed my son to die. Not only was he responsible for killing my son, he was also, once again, as we know, like part of the investigation, knowing exactly what he did. So it's just kind of like she has like extra motivation to hate that dude, Greg. And so Mike tries talking to Evelyn, but to Evelyn's like, I've got too much on my plate right now, just like you, to be dealing with this. And it's just, he's like, whatever you can do, like there's not much that can be done, but can you at least like get some of those charges like lowered? Because it's like she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. Once again, she killed him out in public. She shot him 6 times in front of a bus full of people. Like, there's no getting around that. But it's like, even like, despite everything, it's like, yeah, because Mike does feel a little responsible. Like, him and Evelyn talk about, like, right, there's nothing Mike could do. Like, there's no grease in the wheels to have kept him in prison. Like, it was going to happen regardless. There was nothing Mike viable enough to really make that possible. And so Evelyn's kind of like, why are you taking so much time out of your busy schedule, like, to do this? And he was like, the look in her eyes, he's like, my mom had that. And I was like, probably like that look in her face when, like, Mitch died. So it's like he knows that face too much, and I think it hits him even harder now that his mom's going too. So it's like, it's just, he knows that feeling all too well, especially because she asked him about his mom's circumstances and like, how she handled Mitch's death, and also like the person who killed Mitch, like what happened. So I think some of that is kind of bubbling through Mike's head throughout all of this as well. So Circling over to Kareem really quickly, we still have that continuation of him trying to isolate things. He's trying to make sure what happens in the prison stays in the prison, make sure that nothing from the outside influences the prison, because him and Carney have like different approaches to it, because like he's like, right, goes by cell, check to make sure no one has any contraband type of thing, and Carney's like, are we just going, wouldn't it be simpler just to lock it down? But he's like, no, we're not going to punish like the general prison just for some stuff that's happening on the outside, and maybe some bad eggs amongst the people here. So Carney's just kind of like, all right, whatever you want, boss. It's just kind of like he doesn't like Kareem's approach to all of this. We also had Homdu, his name is that CO Jackson. I can't remember, like he's connected to Bunny, but I can't remember if that's like a cousin or something. I think that's his cousin or something like that. But he wanted to report like some correction officers who were just kind of letting someone with contraband by, like let like some woman go by with contraband. It's like, are you sure? And he's like, I'm not sure. And Kareem's like, do not, like, you don't want to be in a situation where like you like making accusations like that could be bad for you. It's the same blue veil conversation of you will be boxed out. And in fact, is in this type of job, it is the worst to be boxed out, because when you call for someone when shit hits the fan, you don't want silence as a response, you know. So you need to make sure, like, if there's anything going on, you come to me. You don't come, you know, and you make 100% sure. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if that's Homdude legitimately doing his job, or is that him making moves because of Bunny. Like, I don't know what to quite make of that. I'm not quite sure. Well, I mean, maybe it'll benefit having him on the inside when it comes to this whole Callahan thing. Maybe he could be an inside source, but how much of that is Bunny going to report to Mike? I mean, he would if it benefits, if it's a win-win thing of reporting it to Mike will like get it me some like benefit me and my greater aspirations and plans as like a gang leader. Like I don't know what to quite make of it all. Just like we're taking steps with that storyline, and I'm curious to see where that thread ultimately goes and what that all entails. So very interesting developments all across the board. It's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.